So well over the halfway mark now with the BCG Ford Mustang BCG long-termer. Both of those are hashtags, follow them. And yeah, so over 7 weeks now with this car, and already starting to feel sad that it'll be soon time to give it back. Which of course was inevitable, that had to happen. But oh my god, and really it's really starting to come into its own now, because the weather's improving. You got days like today where full topless, roofless in other words, and it's just sublime. It's just absolutely perfect. You know, I often say that, you know, as much as I love this Mustang, as much as I love the Mustang, I'd probably still go for the coupe, and that's probably true just because, you know, I really like the coupe design, and also I just like the way that works. But I have to say that when the weather's like this and you're in a Mustang and you've got the roof down, there's just basically nothing to touch it, because you can get the full effect, you get the full sound effects, you get the full atmosphere, you get the outside world coming in, you pump up the stereo, there's some good bass on the stereo on this car, and it's just, life is great. That's the only thing you can think, really. Life is great. I'm in a cool car, therefore life is cool. You know, it's awesome. But you get the full effect of the throttle, the sound. I mean, you know, you start to use some of those revs because you can hear them, and you can hear the engine burbling away. It's just absolutely splendid. How have we found it so far? I mean, quite aside from the fact that the visits to the pump are quite painful, and they're relatively frequent in this car, depending on how much you drive it. I've had access to other cars in this time, so in that time I have driven it, well actually I've driven it over 700 miles in the time that I've had it. That's a fair few fill-ups, put it that way, and with fuel prices the way they are, and not showing any sign of going down, but actually creeping back up again over the last few days, that's the one aspect that, you know, is painful. But having said that, this car, I'm still getting, it's showing, since I reset it, which is over the 700 miles, it's still showing nearly 25 miles per gallon. So 24.8 is what it's on at the moment. You know, and it's all about how you drive it. So around town, I'm normally skipping gears, you know, because I don't really need them. I've turned off the rev match because the rev match is using fuel unnecessarily. And I'll start off in first and I'll go straight to third gear because, you know, the torque is fine. The other day I put up a video where I was just trying to see if it would move off in fourth, which of course it did, because it's got so much torque. It's got so much low down torque that wasn't even a problem for it. You know, it actually quite easily moved off in fourth gear. And some people were like, oh well, you know, first of all, any car can do that. Well, you know, if you have a car that can do that, I'll tell you what, film a video and post it and tag me, you know, because I'd like to see which of those cars can do it. I think diesel cars, somebody said diesel cars, yeah, that makes sense actually, because they got a lot low down torque, but then so is this thing. But yeah, by all means do that. And then others were like, oh, you know, you're going to wreck the clutch if you keep doing that. I'm not saying, and those people that are going to record videos, just do it once or twice, don't do it too often. I'm not going to continue doing that. It was just an experiment to see, would it do it? And yes, of course it did it. But my normal routine is start off in first and go straight up into third, and then basically skip gears unless I need them, which is what I normally do. Gear indicator on the instrument panel in front really helps with that, because you can see wherever, because it's 6 speeds, but you can see at any time what gear you're in, so that's really helpful. And the other thing to say about the fuel economy is, like, well, you're saying 24.8 miles per gallon, 25 miles per gallon, but those of you that are following me regularly will know that I've just bought an E30 1989 BMW 325i straight 6 engine, 2.5 litre, that one, and I haven't done as many miles in that yet, but I have been driving it around. I've done a few longer trips in it as well as driving it around town, and to be honest, according to the trip computer on that car, because it does have a trip computer, that's indicating that it's only doing 22 miles per gallon. So that's 2 cylinders less and it's only doing well, actually it's doing worse than this in terms of fuel economy. Now you could say a lot of that is to do with the fact that this is a modern car, it's a brand new car, it's got a brand new engine, modern cars are more efficient, and all of that is a fact. That car is older, it's 33 years old, so it's going to lose some efficiency as well. That all makes sense. That's a 6-cylinder versus an 8-cylinder. Now you could say that 8-cylinders normally get such a bad reputation about the fact that they're so uneconomical and all the rest of it, and yet here, you know, we are proving that you know, that's not always the case. The other thing about driving this car, as I've just done now, is I've, you know, given somebody away for 2 reasons. You have to do that when you're driving in London. Firstly, the car is big. It's a little bit bigger than your average car that you drive in London, and so you don't necessarily want to take chances. So I think I always err on the side of caution, you know. Why take a chance if you're not sure it's going to fit? Yeah, just hold back and wait till you got enough space to go through. And secondly, the other thing is that actually I feel inclined to do that because this car puts you in such a mood. You know, it's all about that thing where, you know, you've got the power, you've got the performance, you've got the potency. It doesn't mean that you have to demonstrate it all the time. To be honest, orally, in terms of audio, in terms of sound, you are demonstrating that because, you know, just a slight tap on the throttle, which a lot of people appreciate and a lot of people want you to do, you are obviously always indicating that you have that latent power, but you don't necessarily have to demonstrate it by deploying it. And I think that that's where this car actually makes you a little bit more of a conservative driver, because you want to save fuel, but also because, you know, you don't have to be that person. You know, you can just cruise around, burble around, just enjoy the weather with the roof down, just enjoy the ride. You know, that's what it's all about. And I think that just adds an extra layer of gentlemanness, courtesy, and all the rest of it. And then, of course, there is the specialness factor. That je ne sais quoi, that indescribable, undefinable something that not many cars have, that this car has. Not only does it have it, but it has it in abundance, you know. And not only is it cool, but it attracts coolness. So for example, I just went for a meeting over in East London today, pulled up at this nice restaurant, and was immediately directed to park next to another car. What was that other car? It was only a 1969 Ford Mustang, John Wick's Mustang replica. I mean, can you get cooler? You know, you think you're in this car, you think you're just about the coolest thing on the road, and then you get to park next to something even cooler than this. That is just absolutely extraordinary. And you find stuff like that happens when you drive cars like this. That doesn't necessarily happen. If you turned up in a Ford Fiesta, you would not, I don't think I would have been directed to park there. But because I turned up in a Mustang, the people there were like, no, park here, that's kind of cool. I wish the car was actually cleaner. There's the other thing about the car, I will say, it tracks a lot of debris, because I keep having to wash it, and I wash it and 2 days later it's dirty again. The silver color actually is quite good, but the black canvas top does, I mean, especially now in the summer, there's a lot of pollen, a lot of this, you know, the stuff that's floating around in the air, and it just seems to attract that and grab it. What is the correct way of caring for that canvas? I'm not quite sure actually. So people out there with soft tops, would love to hear from you and tell me, how is it that you wash and look after and care for your canvas top? Do you use anything special, or do you just rub it down with water or wipe it with a cloth? Let me know what you do. But yeah, so far that's been the toughest part of it, is well, apart from the fueling obviously, is keeping it clean. But I feel that it needs to be clean, and I was a little bit ashamed today. The parking next to such a cool car, and it wasn't quite clean enough, and I wish it had been cleaner. But you know, that's it, that's just life, isn't it? So to conclude then, having lived with the car that the Mustang, which I've so often reviewed and tested and had for a few days, having lived with the car for over 7 weeks now, has it diminished any of the allure, any of the attractiveness, any of the coolness, or any of the sheer love that I feel for this car? No, it hasn't actually. And if anything, it's actually increased it, because what I found is that the experience of living with the car is as cool and as good and as satisfying as I imagined it would be. Yeah, it's not the perfect car to live with. It's not the ideal car to be having and owning and running in London. That's all a fact. You know, there's no denying any of that. But having said that, It just makes me grin. It just makes me smile. It just makes me happy. And you know what? I firmly believe it makes other people happy as well. I think that people enjoy seeing this car, they enjoy hearing this car. The number of times I get asked to rev it and what have you, and it's a showstopper, and it's a piece of theatre. It's a piece of automotive drama, you know. And what could be better than that? What could you want from your car more than something that is special? So special that not only is it a car that you will park, walk away from it and look back at, but it's a car that you'll be eager to get back into, and it's a car that you'll be eager to share with others.
A big shout out and thanks to Jay Williams over at Air Technic, who are top tier sponsors of Brown Car Guy. Check them out at Air Technic Co UK for exhausts, brakes, suspension and body kits. Plus our other major sponsor, Nayagen Solutions. Much appreciation also to Tier 4 sponsors, Muhammad Ali Humaid, Tom Conway Gordon and Reza Adil. And of course all these other guys who supporting on Patreon. Brown Car Guy is eternally grateful. Hey, think about joining them over at patreon.com Brown Car Guy. If you can't, don't worry. Just make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube channel and website. Plus follow on social media by searching for Brown Car Guy.